Hey, good morning, my neighbors. Welcome to another episode of BYTTT. Before you take the trade, I am drained, so if I, fumble a little bit, don't mind me. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell button. That way you can know when I'm dropping some of those hits. Why it seems like my camera's a little blurry. There we go. That looks a little bit better. All right. So we got a lot to do. Let's go ahead and knock it out. Let's get to the screen. All right. Let me get this set up. So we got NQ. NQ is rising. Meta and Microsoft kind of smashed their earnings. And I was having a conversation with someone. I was letting them know. I was like, look, I'm not one to just say that the market is going to go only up, but I am one to say whatever is in motion stays in motion. And I don't see anything that just tells us that we're going to go ahead and completely drop either. So I'm looking at NQ. If you just look at it at overall, it's been rising. Remember that drawing that I did earlier in the week? Well, I still have it. I just don't have it on there now. Let's turn it on. Look at that. This was that two candle trend line that I kind of created on that daily. Look at that. Oh my God, look at that. This thing's just been continuously trying to make upsides, and you can kind of see. Let me go ahead and unlock. This is now a time for us to move our trend line. This is where it is. We have made another deviation to that upside. And granted, we've been doing it ever since then, so I've been more focused on the upside than the downside the whole entire time. But you could kind of see that the market was suppressing, especially all of the AI space tech. And I think that's what we're going to be focusing on. So keep in mind with what's going on with NASDAQ and everything else as we go into next week and next month. I still think it's a little overheated, but the market is not respected as such, so we just got to accept it for what it is. So let's keep on going. All right, we got ourselves oil. Oil is trying to get into that mark, but and what I don't like about this is even with oil inventory helping a little bit, it looks like we're gonna hit flush into this downtrend line, which is what we try to break out of. You can kind of see over here, that is where we kind of rejected. We spiked through. We haven't made a lower low, so this still can be the bottom, but I was expecting a candle just like this at one of these days, and we haven't had one of those. So with this slow rise, I'm expecting that when we get to this level, there's going to be some type of reaction. It's either we're going to have a massive push into it so that way it doesn't reject again, or we're going to reject and try to test some of these lows. They are accumulating these lows for a reason. We'll see what happens. Here's gold. Nice solid wedge is still in place. Massive sell-off that was there. And then now you can kind of see we're trying to get back up into this area. Granted, this is a contract expiration issue, but for the most part, you got to take the chart for what it is. That means there was a massive sell-off, irregardless, right? So now we're getting a nice little rise right at that wedge, and it's getting tighter. If this thing can take out 330, let me just mark the level, make sure I got the right price. 339, 3,389 and 30 cents. If that breaks above there today, we're gonna go ahead and put some real pressure on those bears. The bears that were here, the bears that were there, and the bears that started this whole entire problem. And that will then determine, are we gonna go to 3,500? Are we gonna go back to 30, or try to break out of the 3,500, get into that 36, maybe even 3,700? This is going to be a very interesting bull flag. Silver doesn't give me that confluence, and normally they usually be in sync. It could be that they're waiting for silver to touch that 50 moving average before it does so. So I would say, if anything, maybe gold comes down just a little bit, and then boom, silver starts to make that push. This is a contract that did not expire with gold, so you can see the impact by the contract expiration and the drop that we created. In the future, they're anticipating, hence the reason the term future, they anticipate gold is kind of like staying in a line, but we're being dragged by price action, probably locking in some profits. If this thing builds a solid base and it starts to take off, that's when you're going to start to see gold take off as well. So we're very close to our 50% mark of this head and shoulder. Very interesting on that being done, because the market is going up while British pound is going down. British pound going down, that means the dollar is going up. Are we going to be more towards our domestic services, even with our international companies like your Metas, Microsoft, Nvidias, and all of them? Very interesting dynamic that's happening here. We'll see how that goes. Bitcoin, nice solid rise. Of course, it's going to have its rise because of what's going on. You can see that with this Bitcoin closing inside of what I have as an order block, that they're trying to reverse it and see if they can hold this up. If this thing can get back to that 120 again, it's going to grab a lot of sell side liquidity. But I think they're going to grab sell side liquidity to get back into that 115, 120. But look at the stochastic, it's ready to go to the upside. Here's the Russell, of course, with NQ pushing up, as we're going to get out of domestics. So very interesting M looking pattern here. Let me go ahead and get rid of this so you can see it a little bit better. Kind of had a peak, push down, peak, push down, and this is the second time that they attempted to get above there. Do they go down to this level? Do they go down into this level? Do they take the 50? Do they take the 200? Going to be very interesting in the next week or so on the reaction here. And then the last one is our infamous, undeniable, the one that's pushing the market all over the place. It is the US dollar, right? Remember I told y'all this was going to start to look like a W. That's exactly what it looks like. If we take this trend line, as soon as it gets there, all right, there we go. And we put it right here. That is our trend that we're on. And we got a few deviations here, right? We got this one here, and then we got one more right here. That is our area that's going to be our point of interest, and we're going to have to see exactly how this pans out. I don't know if we're going to get above here, but we did get to that 100, aka the $1, and the dollar is worth a dollar. That's how it kind of looks like. Anyways, let me stop being cheesy. All right, now it's time for us to go ahead and really get to the next segment. So go ahead and pull out a pen and a pad, because it's coming out hot. I got the news. There's a few articles that I have for y'all. Nothing really too spectacular, but overall, let's start with our earnings, economic calendar. And so we got a couple of things inside of the news, right? And a few things that's in here. We also got Challenger job cuts is coming in at 7:30, which is a little different. But employment costs, we got jobless claims, core PCE, PMI. We got the Fed balance sheet that's going to tell us a little bit about what they're planning. 4-week auction bill, 30-year and 15-year interest rates. See if we can get some drops over there, because the banks are going to feel a little confident that they're making a little bit of money. So quite a bit of things is happening here that makes things a little interesting for today. So depending on how this news comes out, it's probably going to make or break the market. To kind of keep us ahead, of course, there's some more Euro data, because we're going to have the first of the month. We're going to get non-farm payrolls on Friday. That's the one I think everybody's going to be waiting for. I got a couple of positions. I may hold on to them all the way through payroll, but part of me is like, let me just go ahead and sit on cash in a little bit, because I think the rate cut that we're anticipating is going to be more an adverse relation, as the market is starting to price in a lot of expectations from Jay Powell, especially after his speech yesterday. All right, let's get into a couple of these articles and make this all make sense. Let's start with this, because again, Powell to Trump and traders. He basically is saying, see you in September. And it's not see you in September and this is what's going to happen. It's more like see you in September, because what's going to end up happening in September, he's going to make another decision. Doesn't guarantee that there's going to be a cut in September. I anticipated the market was going to relatively pop to the upside, but because based on what I saw on the charts, because the way the charts was setting up, it looked like we had upside. But what made me a little bit pause was, all right, what if he says he's not going to cut interest rates? So we kind of had both of my theses happen at the same time. And give y'all a little bit of a sense, what I see in the chart is what is gold. That is gospel. That is what I see. I do not just anticipate. I do not look at it like, oh, what if I'm wrong and I'm hedging this and that. I'm not doing none of that. I'm going to play accordingly and mind my risk. All right. That's how I kind of operate. So the market's going to stay as irrational as possible, more than you can stay solvent. So don't overthink it. Don't drive yourself crazy. Yes, it gapped up and we're going higher and all of these things. I totally get it and I understand your sentiment. But just because Jay Powell is going to do some talking does not mean that there's going to be interest rate cuts. There's going to be another meeting very similar like this throughout the months, and they're thinking that it's going to be September when he announced the cuts. And it's going to get priced in, and if the market keeps on going up, then there's no reason to relatively do the cuts. It's kind of counterintuitive. It's like the interest rates are supposed to help stable the economy in the event that there's a major sell-off, but there is no sell-off, so it's not going to do that. Now that we kind of have this arc being penetrated the way that it is, I'm thinking at this point, this is completely moot. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock and delete this and just look at it as what it is. It's just a pure and utter uptrend. So don't overthink it. That's what I'm kind of getting out of this. Don't look at these headlines. Yeah, see you in September. Don't position yourself in the event of cuts. Position yourself on what you see on the charts. If you have trouble with any charts, go ahead and click the links down below. I got free one-on-one, and today is the last day to book anything. If there's no more available, then that means I probably already got it booked. And also, I do charts. If you need me to chart something for you particularly because you have problems putting your trading plan together, discounts are still available until today. Today is the last day. All right, so let's go ahead. Enough with the plugs. Let's go into our news. We got another one here. Wrong one. Wrong screen. I need you over there. All right, so it said Peloton rips higher after UBS says the stock can nearly double. Now, I am not one to dig things out of graveyards. I do not play in the dirt. But could it be? I see they have EPS. They missed badly, but they still generate almost $1 billion, half $500 million. Let's go back a couple of earnings. So that's this one, right? Let's go to this one. No, 19 cents. That's a little worse. Oh, this one's green. Let's see. This one. Oh, wait. They were not going to be profitable, but then they end up being profitable, and the revenue is a little. I kind of saw something like this, and I kind of doubted it. 8 cents, a little bit of surprise. Solid revenue. I guess. When's this? I guess people get into their summer bod. It looks like on the summer it gets into that 600 million. 700 here. Did y'all figure things out over there, Peloton? Yeah, revenues is still kind of down though. Let's see the revenue here. Around So during the summer, they tend to get seven. So they make some money during the summer. That's what it looks like to me. Maybe people are on their summer break, and then they finally dust off their Peloton because they don't get to really use it since the pandemic. Anticipating around this time in June, it's going to be in the 580s. Oh, actually, let me take that back. New Year's resolutions, because this is March, so that'll be the quarter with March. Maybe that's what it is. Hold on, let me see. Let's take another look here. So June is 6th, and that's 7. Oh, okay. So we may get somewhat of a surprise. Could it be that this earnings is a little bit muted, right? Because when they did this earnings over here, 600, and they guided a little bit lower, even because they could probably see some forward orders. Again, they're a hardware company. They got to sell that, but maybe they got some licensing. And that's the other part. Maybe partner with some of the gyms, get a licensing deal with your software, get it plugged into some of these competitors. You try to hold down something that is very easy to replicate. And I went to one gym and they had something that was very similar to it, like a Peloton. I'm pretty sure it's not as good. So maybe license it out to some of these other companies. That way they can have access to your network. That would be probably your best bet. But look at this right here. 500 mil with 6 cents of a loss. If they can surprise this, this can probably take off. Let's look at the chart itself. Yeah, it kind of built a bottom around here. Let's zoom that in. $2. It was a $2 stock. It's in the middle of a golden cross that is fighting whether to be a golden cross or a death cross. Probably heavily shorted as people are starting to reposition themselves. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put you on my radar. I do have it on my, oh yeah. That's how I saw it. I probably was going through my screeners. Okay. Yeah, this might be. As long as it's not under $5, I think this stock is going to pop back up. So put Peloton in your radar. There's a possibility that this thing can give you a little bit of a surprise. All right, let's go ahead and flip it over and continue on. We got ourselves quite a bit of things that I want to cover as far as earnings, and then we're going to do some recaps. This morning, we're going to have PCG. Again, the only reason I have this in here is because they're such a terrible company. I wonder if they figure things out. There was a bit of a bullish divergence that I kind of saw here. We're making that, and we had a nice little curl up on this, but maybe an inverse head and shoulder will be a little bit more sound. Returning 31 cents is what they're anticipating. Over here, they did 33 cents, 5 billion, 6 billion. Let's see if they stay in line on their earnings there. I'm debating on no. This thing is just going to dump because they've just always been terribly ran. So just staying with the consistency. CVS returns money to shareholders. This is probably going to be a very, very solid earnings. They do pay dividends. I might have to take a stab at these dividends. Do I have this on the list? I probably don't have you on the list. Let's put you on here. Yeah, put you on my dividend side. All right. I'm anticipating I'm anticipating probably a good solid one. I was kind of questioning as I was saying that we kind of broke below lower than here, which is giving me a bit of hidden bullish vibes, but I'm not sure because I'm more good at seeing the divergences, not the hidden ones. And this one, I believe that's a hidden. Very possible, but I'm gonna look at this as an order block at $60 as they try to stay above that gap after that major drop off in December. Looks like they kind of missed on the EPS and people panic. But if they are going to stay in line here, and this is a good solid return, expect a nice little pop here. CCJ, This is going to be in that uranium space. We had a nice trade that we did last month right off of this, as we was kind of taking it from that 70, 60 something to like 75, got up in there, and then what stays in motion, whatever goes in motion stays in motion, and it kind of got into that $80 psychological level. Nice little pullback, probably going to be necessary. I'm not saying they're going to miss earnings, but I would say they're probably going to stay in line. And if they do, that could give a nice little pullback because I think a lot of it's priced in. So we'll see how that goes. And then also for the morning is going to be Roblox. Still curious on how this thing is still rocketing off to that upside. I think they're a really sound company at this point. Look, not returning a lot of money to shareholders. It's getting better. Give me a surprise of a 0. Give me that, because you've been red for a long period of time. Either that or the short sellers are getting their hands on top of Roblox and they're not letting this thing come down. Sorry, not the memes, the meme folks. What was that doggone thing called? Wall Street Bets or something in Reddit. One of them. Anyway, they probably holding this bad boy up. Right now, it's already up from here. I don't know if they really released their earnings, but it's already up. I don't see anything here letting us know. So $5, Roblox just keeps on giving. Tonight's going to be fun, just like yesterday with Meta and Microsoft. It's going to be Coinbase. I think they're going to go ahead and surprise, and it's going to get into that $400 level again. They're looking for 1.24. Over here, they reported 2.4, which really dumped them off. That's where this massive drop off kind of got priced in here, and then we got a nice little pop. Anticipating 1.5 billion over 2 billion. So I want you to show that you do more with less. If I can get a nice positive EPS, regardless of what happens with the revenue, I think this thing is gonna do something crazy. All right. So just keep that in mind when you're analyzing the earnings report. And then we got Amazon. 237. Oh my God, they're just so mad at this Amazon. I should have went with some September contracts, but I was trying to play too close to the cuff, trying to be smart about it. It struggled around that 213, and they used that as a good opportunity for them to kind of push up. And I won't be surprised. This pop is based on everything that's going on with the NASDAQ, because this is part of it. But the problem is, if I actually got like 250 September, I think I would have been a happier camper. But I was too narrow-minded. I was looking for something that finished in July, then I was going to get in again in August and all that. The life and times of a trader. That's exactly what happened. So I did not get to enjoy most of this. I had a small loss when we struggled to hold this during the, what was that doggone thing called? Amazon Prime days. And it is what it is. It's all part of the game. Looking for this to kind of keep on going on this side, because especially we kind of got the order blocks all right here. We got through fair value gaps. There is a gap right here, so we're kind of gapping through the gap. And then we got this nice little pop up right here because we closed above here. I like to call these gaps too. So 242 and 242.50 is what they're probably looking for. So just keep that in mind with Amazon. So tomorrow, earnings, we're gonna be worrying about Lynn. It's part of the material space, if my memory serves me correctly. Chemical specialty, especially with what's going on with the Dow. We're probably getting away from some of these chemical companies. Natural gas. I used to chart this one with my accountability groups. I'm just jogging my memory a little bit. Air separation plant, hydrogen, synthetic gas, and all that. So again, it's in that material space. Granted, it's chemical specialty, so it's things that's not super sexy when it's all said and done. It's down pre-market as it's going into the earnings. Kind of drifted, so maybe the market is taking some cash out of these areas and kind of keeping up with what's going on with everything else. So just keep that one in mind. Does return a dividend, not for its price, but again, it still does it anyway. So just keep that one in mind. What else we got in the morning? Everything's going to be in the morning, obviously, because it's Friday. We got ourselves Chevron Probably gonna have to rechart this one. I I know that y'all probably think that I'm crazy because I'm always like, well, it's oil and I'm anti-oil for the most part. I'm a oil bear to a certain degree, like all these things. I get it and I understand, but this is still an uptrend. It is still beating a downtrend. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot behind this. It's a $43 billion company that returns 1.73, just like it returned 2 over here. If they got a nice little surprise, we're going to get a nice little pop up. It is putting in bearish divergences, which is what I question, because this is a overall higher time frame in the weekly fair value gap. I found it questionable. I felt like we were going to go ahead and try to fill, but since we can't get through the center pivot, might be coming down. And that's where I sit, even though oil is pushing up right now. I just think it's temporary. And I'm going to dust off a name that you haven't seen in a while since the pandemic. This is Regeneron. If you don't know who they are, this is part of that whole entire insanity during the pandemic. We pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. This thing got to its peak roughly around 2024 as tech was going up. This technology, or health technology, has been going down. So now we're going to be looking at this downtrend. And what makes me interested in this is I always look for things that has some sense of a discount. And I just look for the chart. If we look here, we got this and this. Just a slight downtrend that was starting to show weakness in August of 2024. And then we got this and this. That's our other deviation. And it's been ripping to the downside. You're talking about a $1,200 stock is now it's lost 50% of its value at this point, right? But look at that magic. As I did those, we're kind of like going sideways here. Did they get a price that they feel comfortable with? Is this an area that this is going to go ahead and push up? We got ourselves a micro trend right here, even though it's breaking down that micro trend right now. Could it be? So I'm very curious on how this all pans out. Just bear with this ticker because again, it's a 8 on the EPS, 3 billion in company. The reason why the stock was moving up that fast, that far, is because they only have 104 million shares floated. That is very low. So it looks like cash just came out of this company. This is probably going to be something that I target as well. It does return a dividend at 88 cents, which is very interesting when you're paying out a dividend versus doing like a stock split and everything else. 88 cents for this type of stock. And to be honest, that's still a little bit too pricey. From a dividend standpoint, from an earnings standpoint, you're getting a lot of value from your EPS. Let me see when they did their drop. It was in the 6 and 9s here, but it was like 11. So something, maybe a cost analysis. I would have to listen to the earnings call. If you want to give it a listen, that probably give you some insight. But something in the fact that when they were getting in the 11s, maybe they lost a patent for their process. Because again, this is since 2020, 2023. 2024, you know what I'm saying? Like there's something here that happened that caused for shareholders to just say, all right, enough is enough, let's get out of here. And we made the money that we're looking for. And if we go back to pandemic here, that levels is around 270 to 300. That's probably what the market was trying to get to. And it stopped at 476. So just keep that in mind. This thing can keep on going down. Do not force anything. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So let's go ahead and kind of recap some fun stuff. Like, I think cybersecurity is getting a blunt end of a beat up right now because of everything else. But if we're going to go ahead and worry about AI, you better get your security right. You don't want to get hacked or anything. Let me get rid of these drawings. I felt like this was a laggard. It had a nice little pop, and then they dropped it right back down. And it's trying to find its way to get back up, but we're down pre-market. I think they're pulling money out of cybersecurity to go ahead and do that. Maybe a retest of the 50 moving average after having a golden cross. That's probably something I would be looking for in Datadog. Another cybersecurity one is Snow, and there's so many of them. So don't worry about these two. If for the most part, there's like Um, Snow. There is, what was that other one that I used to play? Um, Crowd, Pan W, all of those. Ooh, wait a minute. Look like Snow got a nice little pop up. Look at that. So, you want to, actually, this thing just made highs, and I'm going to have to adjust this line on the pre-market, just by the pre-market move. We're going to start up above there. Um, so yeah, I would love to kind of see the cybersecurity really hold everything down, because it's going to be needed to make sure all these AI infrastructures and everything else are protected from hackers. I just saw a video based on hackers hacking apps and stuff like that. So this is one that's going to be very interesting going forward. So just keep in mind on those. And to kind of recap, because it just made such a major move, let's go over to Meta. You know, I've spoke this in ad nauseum about what's the possibility that can happen here. Uh, in my videos, I've explained how it possibly could get into that 800. I felt like this downtrend was just them building their position, just like a bull flag. Nice pull to here. 50% of the move is here. Um, would be well, let's just be modest. Let's just say 50% of the move is the gap up from this part of the pole, assuming that this is another pole. But if this thing is, because how wide it is, if it stays on this trajectory, we're talking about from 479 up into 7. That's a $300 move. So we're talking about $150 above this area. So we're talking about like 850, 890 to 900 is the possibility. So I'm very curious when we get this crossover and we start to really push this MACD and everything else. And let me pull up the stochastic here. I didn't even realize that I was operating with a stochastic. You can kind of see we're in the lower register here, and with this news, all of this stuff is going to curl up. How far does it go? Might put in a divergence before it makes that move. We're probably going to pull back, but I think there's a possibility you could see a $900, maybe even $1,000 Meta. And then Microsoft, this thing will not stop at all. Remember when I said this thing is just on a drifty up? Well, that drifty up is getting violent. 570 was what I was marking off, because I was having a conversation. Who was I having a conversation? Oh, somebody in the Get Rich or Fit Trying. And I was breaking down, I want to straddle, but I had so much cash inside of Meta, I did not do it. I said, it's plus minus. I want to say based on the move itself, and I was measuring how much of a move here. I was like 50% from where it's currently at. It's either we're going to break out or bust down, because we just been slowly drifting up the whole entire time. Very solid earnings. They returned an extra 8% and they found an extra $2.5 billion. Listen, any company that tells me they found an extra $2.5 billion, you're my best friend. All right. So this is a really, really good reaction from the market. I think Microsoft is well ran. Everything is circled around it. I would say the subscription-based business has helped them immensely, but we'll see how that ball rolls after the open. Woo, that was a lot of work. I want to say thank you very much for participating in BYTTT. Like I said, I gotta get this all out to y'all. I want to say thank you for being part of my subscribers. Shout out to everyone that are. Go ahead and join and click the subscribe button. The like and the subscribe button lets everybody know I bring quality information through the YouTube algorithm. So if you could go ahead and do that, that really helps me a bunch. Don't forget, if you are struggling with charts, go ahead and click the link down below. Today's the last day on discounts on charts, and I got quite a few content of people that's doing all right with some of the charts that I released that really explains with a proper trading plan and everything else. I'll probably do an intro of one that I sold, just to kind of give y'all the impact to it. And yeah, go ahead and get that. And then last day for one-on-ones is today. I only got a few more slots left for today, so if you don't get it in today, we would have to wait till after the school session kicks off before I open up my one-on-ones again. I want to say thank you for being part of the team, and I will see y'all tomorrow. You have a great day. Peace.